All right. Are you guys awake now? We are going to wade in the water of that divine spiritual energy here today. That's why we're here, to immerse our whole selves into that spiritual energy that's brought about by our shared recognition of our love for one another. That's why we're here, to change our minds today about who we are and why we're here. When we change our minds, we do change our world individually. And changing our world, we change the world. That's how it all works, is first by changing our minds. In Unity, we believe that when you change your mind, you also change your world. The beginning of all change starts within us. And so that's where I'm working. That's where I have my attention. Then when I'm called upon an action in the world, or to share a word, a thought, a deed, it's coming from the truth. It's coming from the truth of who I am, not my mistaken idea about myself, not my fears, and not my judgments, and not the ways that I separate myself from you, but knowing that we are joined together in truth. And so that's a great change of mind that needs to take place, that takes place within every person that starts a spiritual path. No matter what your faith or direction your path has taken you, where do you end up? You end up in this place of acceptance of one another. Acceptance of our oneness, of our shared humanity and our shared divinity. That's the next step that Unity likes to take. So this year, as we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King Day tomorrow, he was the greatest spiritual activist of our time. So let's remember, he was first and foremost an instrument of God. That he was a pastor, a preacher, and he taught the spiritual truth that was taught by Jesus the Christ. His mission was to speak to the hearts and the minds of those seeking change in the world. That was what was his to do. But it's also ours to do in our own way. You know, he said, I have a dream, but there are millions of us, so we need to have a million dreams. We need to have a lot of dreams. We need to stand up and know that we can and do make a difference by loving one another. By exemplifying this change of mind, we do make a difference in the world. That we are all together in this, that we are all one, that we are not separate. And there is no reason to accept division. There's no reason to divide. There's no reason to separate from one another. For when I get to know you, I don't care who you are, where you've been, what your background is, or what you've believed up until this moment. I'm going to endeavor to be your friend. And you know what? That's what Abraham Lincoln said. He says, I eliminate my enemies by making them my friends. Wow, if you got all friends, where are your enemies now? And it's true that no matter where you have been in your life up until this moment, we're here now in this moment. So let's be friends. Let's come together in the place where we can acknowledge that we all come from the same Creator. That you and I, at least, are coming from the same Creator. That there is a divine source of wisdom and love and power that wants the same thing for everyone. That everyone in this world wants to be loved and wants to love. Wants to know that their contribution to humanity makes a difference. Wants to have joy in their life. Wants to have the basic necessities of life. Everyone wants that. So it is up to each of us to dream that dream. It's going to take 1 million dreams. It's going to take 8 billion dreams. We're all going to have to begin to at least want the same thing that we want for ourselves, for everyone else. We can make the decision for love. It may require us to change our minds about ourselves, that's all. But we can make that decision. I was reading some things this morning, and I came across a quote from Martin Luther King that really speaks to the teachings that we teach here at Unity, that we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. We are tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all of us indirectly. But I would say, if you take the time and space element out of it, whatever's affecting one directly is affecting all directly, right now. So whatever thoughts you're having in your mind, and whatever words you speak, whatever actions you take in this world, you're affecting everyone. And it comes back to you. If you're angry and if you have hate towards others, guess what? It comes back to you. That anger and that hate is going to affect you. It affects you first and last. It stays with you. It's in your mind. It makes up your vibration. So what good is hate? What good is judging others when I'm just hating and judging myself in the end? If I think I'm better than someone else, then I'm putting somebody down. And that's not really the type of self-love that I'm looking for. We had a wonderful podcast on Friday where we learned something called self-compassion, which is so different from what we've been taught in the traditional model of self-esteem. Because self-esteem always requires that you strive to be better than others, you be above average, and that's how you get your self-esteem, through judging other people. But self-compassion is different. It's saying, I accept myself the way I am. I endeavor to be better, but I accept how it is right now. I accept and love myself just the way I am. And I care for myself. And I'm going to treat myself to the truth. That's what I say. That's my affirmation of self-compassion. I'm going to treat myself to the truth. I'm going to tell myself the truth often today, and with conviction. The truth that I am a holy, loving child of a loving God. Because we're caught in this inescapable network of mutuality. What I'm experiencing, I'm going to share with you. So it makes sense to want to experience that deep peace that we were born with, that deep love that we're capable of. Wayne Dyer said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And we say this a lot. We've heard it a million times. But I want to apply that to people. Oh my goodness. If I change the way I look at you, you're going to change. You might not think it's true, but I've had many reports come back to me, miracle reports of people who've tried forgiveness and said, you know, this person at work, they actually hated me. They always treated me poorly. You know, it was an oppressive situation. But I decided to practice what you were teaching me, and I forgave, like, totally. And I went to work each day with love in my heart towards that person. And before too long, and matter of fact, surprisingly, a lot faster than I thought, they began to cooperate and show compassion towards me, and we became good friends, and we worked great together now. Now, who changed their mind? You did. The person who thought they were being oppressed. The person they thought that knew they were being judged. That knew they were being hated in that moment. That person, and I'm not going to say who it is because one of those people is sitting here today. And there's more than one. Shared with me, all I had to do was change my mind. The way I looked at that person changed, and they actually changed their attitude towards me. So all we really need to do is change our minds in order to change the world. Love and forgiveness does not mean we let people off the hook. We call it out. We call out racism, oppression, or whatever it might be. Look, I'm just not getting along with you here. I don't appreciate you yelling at me at work. You can say that. It's okay. You might not be able to. You might just have to love them silently. Which in the case that I'm talking about, that's what happened. But the fundamental change is the way we're looking at them. Seeing the divinity in that person or those people. That's going to change our minds. And it will change what we see. We can apply it to our world as well. We can say, If you change the way you look at the world will change. Isn't that what Wes was saying in his meditation? Wow, that shifted my consciousness completely, especially the beginning of that meditation. The world is waking up. The world is becoming more compassionate. People are standing up for truth. People are asking for basic human rights. Oh my goodness, it's changing, is what I heard. And I'm focusing on looking for that change and being that change. We have to be an example of love. We have to be an example of acceptance and inclusion. We have to be the example of living peacefully on earth with our brothers and sisters. Wasn't that was Thich Nhat Hanh who said, you think walking on water is a miracle. I think walking peacefully on the earth is the miracle. Walking peacefully with one another, that's the real miracle. Walking on water is great, but I'm already peaceful with the water. I love the water, and it loves me. It's my brothers and sisters I'm working on. Those are the ones that I want to see differently. I love it because we have to be the example of acceptance and inclusion. We have to be the example of living peacefully on earth. And we have to be the example of Christ consciousness. If we really want to follow the teachings of Yeshua, Jesus the Christ from Nazareth, then we're going to have to live that example. We're going to have to be the best Christ we can be today. And tomorrow I hope to be better than I was today. That's all, one step at a time. I accept the way I am, here and now. But I also accept that I can experience more of the truth of our oneness. I mentioned this thing here. This is before Mahatma Gandhi. So our commitment to changing our own minds is the foundation of this deeper and lasting change that we want to see in the world. That's the foundation, changing our minds. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Now, I know we've heard this 100 million times. We see it on posters. We've put it up on our refrigerator. We framed it and stuck it in our living room. We put it on a T-shirt. But who's living it? Who's actually doing it? I love the scripture says, just do it, right? Nike didn't say that first. It was the Bible. Just do it. That was from the Old Testament, too. Nike stole that one. That's a 5,000-year-old slogan. Just do it. Just be the light, my friends. Well, how do I do it? Just do it. You know how to do it because it's what you are. And that's the easiest thing to actually be. It takes a lot of effort to dislike your neighbor. It takes a lot of effort to maintain hate. It really does. It takes a lot of effort. And you're training your mind every day to hate. You're reminding yourself you don't like that guy, that woman. You don't like that political party. Oh, you don't like those rich people or those poor people, those folks from the other countries. You don't like those immigrants. You don't like this group or that group. And you're reminding yourself and training your mind those things all the time. Then you wonder why you don't like the world. You wonder why that you're blaming other people for the way you feel. You're the one that trained your mind to hate, to judge, to dislike others, to think if they change, I'm going to be just fine. I'll be all right. No, you won't. No, you won't. You're going to be just as sad and sick and sorry as you are now. And you think, I'm winning the battle. No, you're not. You're fighting the battle against yourself. You're losing that battle, my friends. Because the one you're judging and hating finally comes down to you. And if you can't see it, that's okay. I just know that if you hear one word I'm saying, your mind is beginning to change in this regard. And I want your mind to change for the positive, to remember that you are love. I don't care what you believed up until the moment you walked into here today. You are love. You are the perfect love of God unfolding perfectly. Forget everything else. Let all that story go. You're not going to win any battles here. There's no battle to be fought in heaven. We sing that song, what if the game is over, right? What if the race is over? The game's already been played and we've all won. Wow, what if the race is over? We were all born victorious. We all are given the same attributes as one another, and that's the attributes that are found in God, the Christ consciousness, the spiritual consciousness. What if there is no race or no fight to be fought? That we're all perfect as God created us. Now we can start living. We can really start living now. We think we're alive only in the conflict, but in the conflict you lose some, you win some, and who knows in the end who really wins. And they say in war there are no winners. And there's a war going on within you. Within each and every human being, there's a war going on. Thinking, how am I going to make this work? Guess what? You're not going to make it work. It's working perfectly already. And the only way to feel and experience that working is to accept it. Accept the truth of God's will for each and every one of us. That perfect will that is unfolding love for everyone in the same measure. It's working perfectly, my friends. What I have to do is give up my story and accept the truth that's being offered to me. We have an example. I mentioned Mahatma Gandhi because Martin Luther King, he studied a lot. Everything he could, every book he could get, and all the information he could find on Mahatma Gandhi, because he really was inspired by the nonviolent movement and wanted to apply that to the plight of Americans of color. And he did so. And I think that that's how we must also carry on. Because confronting hatred and oppression with love and truth is the radical change of mind that was also demonstrated and taught by Jesus of Nazareth, Yeshua. That's what Jesus taught. If we're going to follow those teachings, then I'm going to confront the oppression, the hatred, the judgment, the division, anything that I come up against with what? Love. How am I going to know that love exists in me until I put it into practice? Until I do it? That's why the Bible's saying, well, you just got to do it to know that it's actually real. It's actually happening. It's actually in you. That you can live a life raised up by higher consciousness. You can do it. But how do I know I can do it? By doing it. And that's the amazing thing. If I just sit on the couch every day, I'm never going to know what I'm capable of doing with this body. But if I take it outside, if I walk out in the cold, if I go to the gym, if I do some things, I'm realizing, wow, I can do a lot with this body. Same with your mind. Same with your heart. You'll never know how much you can forgive until you start doing it. Right? And you see the miracles that come from it. You'll never know how much you can actually do until you start doing it. Until you start loving your neighbor as yourself, until you start loving your enemies. We have to be the example of love and acceptance and inclusion in Christ consciousness. So, Dr. King had a vision of applying the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, of being the change that you want to see in the world, to the situation in the United States in the 60s. We need to apply it right now to the situation we see in 2022. If you look at the state of the world, it's like a pendulum, right? It's swinging back and forth. It's kind of gotten stuck over here in the in the area of judgment and hatred. And it's become mainstream and acceptable to hate your neighbor. So come on, guys, be radicals. Love your neighbor. Love your enemies. I mean it. I've got no option, because I'm responding with the same judgment and the same hatred at certain times, and I realize, well, I'm doing exactly the same thing that I don't like coming at me. So how can I do something different? I can visualize the folks that I don't agree with surrounded in love, surrounded in peace, surrounded in an experience of their true self, and see the mind changing naturally to accept the truth of God in them. Accepting the truth of God in others. It starts with them, so you got to pray for those that you feel are opposing you, oppressing you. There was a wonderful forgiveness workshop that we used to do. Lily and I, we still do it. We did it one here recently. And part of that is the prayer for the oppressor, the prayer for the abuser, the prayer for the one who hurt you. And in that prayer, we say, you may have hurt my body, you may have attacked my mind, but you have never touched my spirit. I remain as God created me, unaffected by your abuse or oppression in any way. I remain as God created me. I remain intact as a divine creation of my Creator, as a divine expression in human form of that loving God. I remain intact. I claim my power as a perfect child of God. What an amazing and healing practice forgiveness is. But we don't forgive and just let everyone off the hook. By saying that, we are calling out. I mean, it's actually very powerful because you are calling out the oppression or the abuse. And you're saying, though, that I'm still here. We are still in this interconnected web, tied together in this garment of mutuality. We are one still, and I'm still right here. You haven't eliminated the truth from your mind. Now, I know that most folks think that spirituality should stay separate from social events, should be separate from politics. Spirituality should stay separate from all of those things, but it's interconnected and intertwined. It's just how I look at it needs to change. It will never be separate from your politics or your social experience. It can't be, because this is all part of your world. It's the world that you are creating by the activity of your mind and your heart. So you can't separate yourself from your world. But you can change your world by the way you look at it. You can change your world by changing your mind. That is my whole message today. And I believe, in essence, it was the message of Dr. Martin Luther King that we can change our minds. The Bible says, Jesus said in the Bible, I say to you, love your enemies, bless those that curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you. I know that Dr. King was a reverend. He was a minister. He followed the teachings of Jesus. Are we going to do the same? Doesn't matter if you say you're from a Christian faith or not. Are you going to follow the teachings of truth, which say, if you love your enemies, if you pray for those who hate you, if you do good to those who are against you, then it will change. Wow. That's a spiritual truth. Not just taught by Jesus, but really by every spiritual faith that there is. So famously, Martin Luther King said, hatred cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. The full quote is this, and I want you to listen. Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hatred cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Powerful words spoken by someone who was practicing it. And if you find that the message here at Unity touches you in some way, it's because we're practicing it. It's because we're authentic in our beliefs, that we truly believe that this is going to be beneficial for us as human beings, and that's why we practice it. And so we also invite you to practice the same principles of truth. He also went on to say, and Mahatma Gandhi said it first, an eye for an eye only makes the whole world blind. So seeking revenge is not going to help. But there is a greater purpose to be had in changing our minds about who we think we are, standing up in truth of who we are. Because when you stand in your power and your passion and in your conviction of the truth, then the lies of the illusion fade away. I mean, we used to call it sin, but it's just error thinking. It's just a mistake in the mind that human beings are somehow inherently evil. In Unity, we teach that human beings are inherently good. And that means all human beings. And so I want to accept that for myself. I'm going to have to give it to you. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your dream may be, you are inherently good. When I change the way I think about you, when I change the way I think about the world, when I change the way I think about myself, then my world changes. And I invite you to do the same. I love you.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass., and visit us online at unityoncapecod.org. This video was made possible in part through a grant from Unity Worldwide Ministries and the Templeton Foundation.